Welcome everyone to our Flatiron School Final Project Showcase for January. My name is Michelle Pathé and I'm a community manager here at Flatiron School, and it is my pleasure to be hosting this event this evening. We've got a pretty awesome lineup of some of our recent graduates from our software engineering and our data science programs. I'm going to let them introduce themselves in just a little bit when they start sharing their work. But tonight, you can expect some short presentations from each of these students that covers their final projects at Flatiron School. So I'll have them walk through what their project was, what inspired it. We'll have lots of time for Q&A. So if you do want to ask them questions, we encourage you to do so. I'll be keeping my eye on the chat if you want to drop your questions there. But we do also have a fancy little Q&A button on your Zoom toolbar that you can ask your questions there as well. And we'll do our best to make sure that all of the questions for these panelists, these presenters get answered. I think that is all I had in terms of housekeeping, making sure that the chat was set up and everyone's ready to roll. So let's get into some presentations, shall we? Awesome. So first, we are going to be hearing from Andrei Hushcha, one of our data science graduates, who will be presenting his project Fat Cat, Deciphering Kittens' Meows with Neural Network-Based Audio Classification. So buckle in, and Andrei, go ahead and share your screen and take it away.
Yeah, hi. Yeah, let me go for it. Okay. Yeah, be good. So, hello everyone. It's a huge honor and responsibility to be the opening presenter at the Global Final Project Showcase. I've just created this slide a few hours ago, and I want to address it to our future Global Showcase presenters. As we know today, we have only 3 presentations out of many. And I was wondering why and what the three of us have in common that led us to the global showcase. I'm not sure if we were the best students, to be honest, but I believe that 90% of our success lies in our ability to go beyond the curriculum by expanding our horizons. We are not afraid to take challenges and push our boundaries. And it has to be fun and personal because these projects are not just about data science or software engineering. It's all about us and how we see the world. Anyway, let's get back to business. I'm excited to introduce my project, Fat Cat, Deciphering Kittens' Meows with Neural Network-Based Audio Classification. My name is Andrei Hushcha. I'm a data scientist with a background in international business. And I've had the great pleasure of working alongside two key contributors. And 3.5 months old Scottish fold kitten Mio, serving as the kitten vocalizer, and my 8-year-old daughter Kate, who assisted with human meow vocalizations. I also must mention the invaluable contributions of our exceptional Angelica Spratly, and express my gratitude to all my peers who have been a part of our journey. Our agenda today includes exploring the business problem, providing a data overview, analysis, modeling, predictions, and the future steps we envision for this project. So, many of us bring a kitten into the home without fully understanding their needs. Is it play, food, or something else they require? Our project aims to bridge this gap in understanding by creating a model that precisely classifies kittens' meows into various classes. One of the exciting outcomes of the research is the development of a mobile app for new pet owners. It is more of a software project that we are not going to delve into right now. In our quest for data, we found internet resources to be limited, with only a few small datasets available. Fortunately, Mio's fondness for communication provided us with a unique opportunity. We embarked on a 15-day experiment, consistently recording Mio's meows and categorizing them under specific conditions. Waiting for food, condition F. Seeking attention, condition A. Experiencing thrill, condition T. My daughter Kate also contributed by mimicking various meows, condition cat. The dataset consists of 368 files, each file under 3 seconds. It's important to acknowledge that our data is limited to specific age, gender, and breed of cat. Environmental settings and limited um, range of meals behaviors are also inherent parts of our studies framework. Our analysis led us to an exciting discovery. A sequential neural network tuned with Keras Tuner achieved a remarkable accuracy of 93.2%, and we observed distinct audio patterns in each condition, from the variant intensity in the food condition to the stable, monotone sounds in human vocalizations. Now, we move on to our analysis to see how these unique properties can be identified. I'm going to show you only a few visuals in this presentation to capture the main idea. A very common visual representation of a sound signal is its waveform, which shows how the sound pressure volume changes over time. The waveform of food or condition F, for instance, reveals fluctuating intensity. If we examine attention or condition A, we find that it's a little bit different. Its waveform is quite uniform with steady amplitude. The trill sound, or when the kitten is merely purring, displays a highly variable and complex waveform. And when it comes to human meowing, our waveform is monotone and even. Additionally, spectrograms have proven to be fundamental tools in extracting different features from audio signals. Spectrograms usually represent the frequency content of the signal over time, with color intensity indicating the amplitude of different frequencies at different points. For food, we observe some louder pitches that remain constant over time. For attention, there are many different pitches contributing to a dynamic sound. Trill is characterized by low-pitched sounds that change rapidly, and human meows are quite similar to the food condition. A huge part of this project is modeling, and it took me an eternity to achieve the results we have now trying different algorithms and models. But now let's focus on the most effective one. Our modeling approach involved converting audio signals into images, extracting unique features from them, and using a sequential neural network to train the model. After reducing the number of features to prevent overfitting and tuning the model, we achieved an accuracy of 93.2% in class prediction. Our model is not perfect. There is some confusion between the food and attention conditions. The model predicts attention instead of food in 2 cases and food instead of attention in 3 cases. But overall, the predictive accuracy is promising. Moving on to our predictions. All predictions were made on audio files not present in the original dataset. And out of the curiosity, I recorded myself meowing. And the model recognized it as a human vocalization with a bit of seeking attention features. I think it's quite amazing. And of course, I wasn't actually seeking attention, but probably the neural network knows me better. Now, let's look ahead and explore the future steps we have planned for this project. Mobile app development. I'm working on an app to help owners decode their kitten's meows from day one. Database expansion. To enhance the model's accuracy, we aim to broaden our dataset. These are the future steps so far. And now I would like to thank you all for your attention to our project. Here is a photo of our team. I'm ready to answer any questions in the Q&A chat below. And thank you so much.
Awesome. Well done, Andrei. Solid presentation, super fun. You're getting some love in the chat. So if anyone does have any questions for Andrei, we'll give a couple of seconds to collect your thoughts. And if you want to drop them into the chat or the Q&A, we would love to answer them. While folks are thinking, Andrei, do you mind me asking, what what kind of inspired your choice to kind of learn this new skill, make a bit of a transition, and why data science?
Um, I I've loved playing with data since I was a kid. Like I was good at math in my high school, in statistics during my college years, and data science gives you the insights and patterns based on somebody's data that helps improve somebody's life or boost the business. It's as simple as that.
Very cool. Where, for future thinking, what are there any like specific industries or fields in data science that like would be your ideal career?
To be honest, not specific fields, but what matters to me is creating tomorrow. So you gotta be involved in something that is challenging, absolutely, and it gotta be tomorrow, something about tomorrow, because
Mhm.
today is not it's not fun anymore.
Always looking ahead, always looking ahead. I see a question from Bernadette in the chat. She wants to know what would be a good interface for a layman user to gather and act on this information. So I guess maybe kind of what for someone who maybe isn't as involved in data science, what are some ways that they can like understand this information?
Mm, if you want to understand, so okay, speaking of myself, I go and Google it. That's it. So ask something for dummies. Like as I'm trying to get the news, the something new. So I'm just put it in the Google, explain for dummies, and that's it. That's the best way for me. And of course, you have to ask somebody else who's more experienced.
Always Google.
Yeah.
One more question from Brent before we move on. How are you listening to the cat to capture the audio? How are you capturing the cat's audio?
So it was quite simple. I was using my phone, Samsung Note 20, and that has recorder. That's it. So I was just every morning, like every day for 15 days, I was recording it like twice a day.
Just kind of like waiting around.
Uh, Actually, he really loved to talk. So
Okay.
I was blessed at that point. Yeah,
You have a chatty cat. Um,
exactly.
awesome. Well, if anyone does have any other questions for Andrei, be sure to drop them in the chat. We'll make sure there's time at the very end if anything does come up. So once again, thank you so much,
Thank
Andrei,
you so much,
and
guys.
best of luck.
Thank you.
All right, next up, I am excited to invite one of our software engineering graduates up to present his project. So everyone give a warm round of virtual applause to Cooper Lindsley, who will be presenting Dundee Hub. Cooper, you
Hey,
are
everybody.
good to go.
I want to quick start off by just saying, Andrei, that was such a cool presentation. Oh my gosh. This whole time I was on mute and with my video off, and my jaw was on the floor. That was so cool. Anyway, I'm going to go ahead and get started here. Share the screen. All right, great. Well, hello, everybody. As Michelle shared, my name is Cooper Lindsley. I am a full stack software engineer based out of PA and a recent Flatiron School graduate. And this is my capstone project, Dundee Hub. As you'll see in a few moments, Dundee Hub is a full stack web app styled as a social media clone for the cast of the hit TV show The Office. So let's go ahead and dive in. So right here, we have our landing page. Obviously, I took a lot of inspiration from the show itself and its logos. So I'm going to go ahead and log in here for our sign in and sign up page. I'm going to log in as our titular character, Michael, and it'll take us into our main feed here. So I've always felt that building projects as a developer should not only be about those projects that solve a problem or fill a niche, but should extend to those that are fun to build and get you excited to wake up every day to work on. With this in mind, I decided to build my project as an evolution of an idea I had back when I started learning the basics of coding about a year ago. Back then, I just tasked myself with learning the basics of putting together an HTML, CSS static web page, and being able to alter the DOM into bringing the classic office joke Creed thoughts to life as a purely hard-coded page with no interactivity or CRUD functionality. After building that, though, I moved on from the idea due to still working a full-time job at the time prior to enrolling in Flatiron School. And then, of course, once I enrolled and started my course, I was focused on all of that. But luckily, I remembered the idea once our final phase came around, and I needed an idea for a full stack web application to build. And this allowed me to build it the way that I had always imagined. So using technologies that I learned through my certification with Flatiron, which JavaScript, React, and CSS for the front end, Python and SQL for the back end and database, as well as SQL Alchemy and Flask for tying it all together, I was able to build Dundee Hub as a CRUD web application instead of the old static web page that I started with. To do this, I had to make sure that my app was able to create, read, update, and delete CRUD data from the client side and have these changes persist upon page reloads and across user sessions. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to quick demo the fact that we're able to post something and it's not just a nice looking web page. So we'll do a classic line. That's what she said. Go over and post. We'll see that it is showing on the page. I can try reloading it and it will stay there. I can then go in and say, that's what he said. Hold on just a second. There we go. We'll save it, reload the page. It still shows. I can go to Michael's user profile and it'll show as one of his posts. And then let's say, because Michael is always worrying about people liking what he has to say, he's just going to go ahead and delete that and try and post it another time. So we'll refresh. It's no longer there. And if we go to the user profile, you'll see it's no longer showing up there. So as a result of this strategy and my project's time constraints, I had to consider which functionalities were most important to creating a social media style app, primarily being able to post. So then I had to build out from there to make it an interactive and user-friendly experience. One of the first things I had to do for this project was build my seed file for the database using Python and SQL. So my app had somewhere to pull the actual data I was using to fill in the posts, the comments, the user data, the affinity groups, everything that makes this app what it is. After that, I moved on to building my backend routes, endpoints, and relationships so that I could avoid any issues stemming from there, like recursion errors, which I'll touch on later in the presentation. Just go through quickly to show you guys a little bit more of the options. So you'll see the user affinity groups, posts that they've made, their profile photo, all of their information on this side. I'm still building out things, so I decided to leave a little Easter egg in here for anyone that would go to the profile page. I promise I will finish it, so stay tuned. But for my front end, I built a wireframe using the online design tool Figma so that I would have an idea of how I wanted my finished page to look once everything was said and done. So that's right over here. I wanted to share that as well. If you aren't familiar with using Figma for wireframing and prototyping, I highly advise you check it out. So this was when I first started working on the idea. This is what I came up with. Obviously, there are a lot of similarities, a lot of differences too. That just came down to what I had time to build and work on. But I think overall, I was able to maintain a pretty consistent image across both. This working on the wireframe was definitely one of my favorite parts, and really helped me put together a blueprint of what a stereotypical social media site looks like. Um, and then the functionality of my front end was built using React because of its usage of components and hooks that allow for easier to read files and less confusion than just vanilla JavaScript. In particular, React allowed me to build individual pieces of the various pages, like my login and sign up forms, which I showed earlier, as well as my post and edit post forms, amongst others. I would say probably the biggest challenge I encountered while working on this, besides having to, decide within the 3-week time frame we had to build this, what I actually wanted to include. The toughest challenge I encountered was building my backend in a way that mitigated issues like recursion errors. So for anyone unfamiliar with recursion and recursion errors, imagine asking your computer to count down from the number 3. It'll have no trouble counting down 3, 2, 1, 0. But instead of stopping at 0 like expected, it'll keep counting down, -1, -2, etc. Essentially, recursion is when a function calls itself to solve a problem, like counting down from 3 and then asking it to continue down from each smaller number until it reaches 0. A recursion error occurs when we forget to designate when we want the computer to stop counting, like at 0, and so it continues an infinite loop of counting down. To fix this and prevent recursion errors from occurring, you have to state a clear base case, like specifying the number we'd like the computer to stop counting down at. This is a lot easier said than done, though. So another great way to make sure you properly account for this is to work one relationship at a time on your backend, rather than trying to build out your entire backend all at once. And I have to give a quick shout out because I saw that she's in the presentation right now. Eleanor Kelman was the genius who told me that after I almost pulled my hair out with recursion errors at the beginning of this project. So thank you, Eleanor. But overall, this has been Dundee Hub. For anyone interested in checking out my actual code or playing around with my project, I'll be sure to drop a repo link along with my LinkedIn in chat. I love to connect with tech folks, so please feel free to reach out. My experience with Flatiron School was fantastic, and I'd happily recommend it to anyone who's looking to make a career change. But if there's any questions, I will happily answer them.
Awesome. Nice job, Cooper. You had me in the mood to watch some old episodes of The Office.
I can also say for anyone that's willing to dive in, there are some incredibly deep cut Easter eggs that I hid in my code. Easter eggs I know no one will ever find, because who's going to look that deep into another random human being's code? But it's just fun to know that they're there, which made it all the more fun to build.
I mean, the moment I saw Kevin dropping his pot of chili, you had me hooked. You had me hooked, Cooper. All right, y'all, definitely go ahead, drop some questions into either the chat or the Q&A box for Cooper. While you're thinking of those questions, I am going to ask the audience something. I'm just kind of curious, seeing who's out there. Would you mind just giving me a number and letting me know if you are either a current Flatiron student, Flatiron grad, maybe you're an incoming Flatiron student, you're getting started and you're in your prep work, or if you're just here to check things out and hang out, let me know. Awesome. So let me go, Cooper, and get some questions for you. Angelica wants to know, how can you go about coding emoji reactions that users can click on for each post? Is that something that might be in the pipeline?
Oh, so I will have to say that was a stretch goal of mine. It is very doable. It was just something that when it came down to being able to get functionality and the main MVP deliverables done by the deadline for my graduation project, it was something that just didn't make the cut of this needs to happen. I will also say there's you're not able to edit comments at the current juncture with it. I'm still working on it. It's kind of my pet project. Sorry, I shouldn't have said that. Andrei just went. I shouldn't be talking about pet projects. This is something totally different than that. I'm sorry, that was such a bad joke.
Embarrassing.
I know. My dad would be proud right now, but no one else. No, I definitely would love to go in and try and build out that functionality. That's a great question, but unfortunately, I don't have that at this current juncture.
Awesome. What about deploying this onto the cloud at some point?
That is also a next step for me. I'm so sorry. This is such a bad Q&A. I'm just saying, yeah, I want to do that. Yeah, I want to do that.
No, hey, we're just
but yes, no, I 100% really want to deploy this. I think it's a really fun project. Like I said before, there's a lot of really cool projects people can do that solve problems. But for me, this was a place where I could flex my creativity. I'm a career changer, so I spent 6 years in the professional field, doing very non-technical work, just using my soft skills to talk to people. I was a fundraiser, and as great of a job as that was, it really didn't lend itself to ever being able to be creative. So having this open, essentially canvas to build whatever I wanted and just have a couple deliverables that I had to hit, I thought it was just a really cool opportunity to do something that I had already thought about at the very beginning of this whole journey over a year ago.
Yeah.
And also
Awesome.
thank you for all the very kind words from folks in the chat. I'm getting to them all, I promise.
Before we move on, Martin wants to know what's the best advice you can give to someone starting their capstone project?
Ooh, what a great question, Martin. It very much, I would say it very much depends on where you are in that whole starting. That's already, like, saying you're starting on that capstone is already a bit of a loaded question, a loaded statement. You know, if you're saying you're starting on it, like it just started on Monday and you're still deciding what you want to do, or you have an idea and you're just trying to figure out where to start. I would say if you're just starting, if you know, on Monday it was your first day and you're still trying to build out, or on this coming Monday it's going to be your first day of that phase 5. I'd say really just think about what are some things that you find enjoyable in your life, and it doesn't have to be any grand, you know, big brained idea of like, oh, ending world hunger or something like that. I definitely say, like, if you just have an interest that really you're passionate about, in my cohort, perfect example, I had someone who was a, you know, video game savant who loved video games in every way, shape, or form. And their final project was to build an e-commerce website for, similar to like a GameStop webpage where they could buy and sell and trade video games. Not that anyone owns physical discs anymore, but that you're able to do that. I also saw there was another project where someone built an interactive CLI where you could actually go into a virtual store and do it by typing in commands, like a choose your own adventure game. So there's a lot of ways to do it. In my cohort as well, we had 2 people that made very basic games, but they were both really freaking cool games. So really there's so many ways to go with that. And I know I'm rambling right now, so I'm so sorry to everybody. But the other part is, if you are just looking for a way, like where to start, I always advise start on the back end, build from there. Once you get to the front end, or before you even start on that, build a wireframe of what you want your project to look like when it's all said and done. I think wireframing is a very underappreciated part of this whole process. It might not seem like it's time well spent right now because you're not actively coding, but once you get to the front end, to have that guide of how you wanted things to look when you first had that splash of inspiration. Because once you start working on the front end, after the back end, you're gonna hate everything about the project. You're gonna wish you never came up with the idea. But having that reference point of, oh yeah, this is what I wanted to do, it keeps you motivated, as weird as it is to say. So I'd definitely say start with the back end and a wireframe and just build from there, one relationship at a time.
Solid advice. Yeah, I appreciate you, the first part of that answer mentioning like pick something that like speaks to you or that you're passionate about or that you're interested in or you have some sort of connection to, because I think what a lot of students maybe don't realize going into the final phase where it's you have done all the labs, you have sat through all of the lectures, and now you really just have this freedom to build whatever
Yeah.
you want. And you are going to spend the next several weeks just building that. It's a lot of time to spend on something. So making sure that it's something that, you wake up in the morning and you're excited to get to work, I think is, it makes it fun. It makes it fun. So
Also, don't be afraid to talk to your cohort mates. One of the best resources I had access to while I was doing my project was the people that had learned alongside me for, at that point, 12 additional weeks. No one's going to have a full set of skills on every single aspect of a full stack engineer in just 12 weeks. So you're going to have people in your cohort who are amazing on the back end or amazing front end engineers. Or in my case, I had someone who was just so good with CSS. And so I just constantly was pinging them, hopping into Zoom breakout rooms with them and just saying, hey, I'm having this issue or I really want to do this. Do you have any advice? It's a great way to get someone else's expertise and eyes on the project. And also it's a great way to practice your collaboration skills, which will go a long way in making you an even more desirable candidate after graduation.
totally. All right, y'all, let's give it up for Cooper. Show him some love in the chat. And that brings us to our final presentation of the night. We're going to be going back to the world of data science, and I am very excited to invite Gina Guerin to the floor to present her project, ShadeSense. All right, Gina, take it away. Go ahead and share your screen, unmute.
Unmute would be helpful. Okay, thank you everyone. Oh, maybe not. Sorry, just a second. Come on. Okay, we'll try this one more time. See if she doesn't want to foreclose on me. Okay, try one more time from the top. Okay. Thank you everyone for being with us tonight. I'm thrilled to share with you an exciting innovation in the world of technology and beauty, an app that's set to revolutionize how we explore and discover lipstick shades. ShadeSense, a lipstick shade detection app. So let's get acquainted. First, my name is Gina Guerin. I'm a data scientist, recent grad from Flatiron. I am the technical and creative lead for this project. I had the wonderful pleasure of being mentored by the wonderful Angelica Spratley. It's all thanks to her that I am here today. So quick little shout out. Also, my mates in my cohort were amazing as well. I did have a couple neural net companions, so it made this journey a lot easier. Okay, so first on the agenda, we're going to get into what ShadeSense is itself, the what, who, how, and why. We're going to go over some data, discuss the features of the app, give a breakdown of how the app itself works, and then we'll show a demo and then discuss some future insights. So starting out, what is ShadeSense? ShadeSense is an innovative application designed for precise lipstick color analysis, but ShadeSense is not just an app. It's a beauty companion that opens doors to a world of lipstick possibilities. Moving on to the who and how, let's start with the power of image recognition. With ShadeSense, you can take a screenshot of a celebrity or influencer, upload it to the app, and boom, instantly discover the exact lipstick shade that they're wearing. And then for those natural beauty gurus that you see on the daily that like to keep their beauty secrets close, with ShadeSense Live Detection, you can just simply point your camera and the app will analyze in real time, which means you can easily stay on top of the latest trends because ShadeSense minimalizes gatekeeping. And then why? Why does this matter? Well, just last year alone in the beauty industry, there was a net worth of $579 billion worldwide On top is the United States, leading with an 89 billion spent, which leads us to something called the lipstick effect, which is that consumers are still more likely to buy small luxury items. That means lipstick, makeup, things of that nature, even when the economy is in a downturn, which is why a lot of economic professionals say that the beauty industry is recession-proof. So going on to our data, what we have is a collection of 220 annotated selfies of yours truly. It's going to be singularly featuring the popular makeup brand MAC Cosmetics with 6 popular lipstick shades, none being an option. So seeing if our natural beauties are really natural beauties. And then some conditions to take into account for these images are going to be things like smiling, surroundings, lightings. From all of this, we will have some limitations being, since it's just solely me, some diversity limitations, it being a singular makeup brand, some brand limitations, and then also lipstick shade limitations as well. And then the features of the app, there's going to be 3 popular file formats that are able to be uploaded into the app, and then as well as live detection through your desktop camera. And then from that live camera detection, it works in 2-second intervals. So what that means is every 2 seconds from the live stream, the app takes a still image and then processes off of that still image. And then we have some user feedback as well, which is going to be a simple thumbs up or thumbs down. And then our model breakdown. So how Shade Sense itself works. It takes the image and breaks it down pixel by pixel, detecting patterns and edges. Then based on these features, the network makes predictions, providing us with an output that represents its understanding of what the image contains. So as you can see on the left, our images are going to be processed through, and then it makes a prediction on what that category of the image will be. And then our model was able to have an 81% accuracy score based off of all that. So on to the exciting part, we're going to get into the app demo.
Beginning, we'll have the option of whether to upload an image or use live detection. We're going to start out by uploading an image. The image that we are going to be uploading is going to be a well-known Victoria's Secret model. Her name is Adriana Liam. She is going to be wearing the shade Ruby Woo by MAC. Where we'll scroll down, we'll see her, our image, and then our app was successful in predicting what color shade she was wearing. Then we'll move on to our live detection. We'll clear that out. We will click live detection. And then once our camera is accessed, we will see me. I am wearing the lipstick shade Whirl by MAC. And our camera is running on 2-second intervals. So with a little bit of patience, we will then scroll down and see that yes, our app was able to detect that I am wearing Whirl. We'll then move up onto upload image, and then we'll scroll back down and give some user feedback. Did we get it right? We're going to give ourselves a thumbs up. And then we will be prompted with a cute little message saying, thank you for your positive feedback. Thank you for viewing Shade Sense.
Okay, so from that, some future insights and future goals is obviously number 1, our data library. The larger our data library, the less limitations we have, so on and so forth. And then next is going to be some user feedback, really trying to figure out if our 81% accuracy score is 81% based on those thumbs up or thumbs down. And then fine tuning. So pretty much the tech world is ever changing, always evolving. There's always something new and improved happening. So making sure to stay up on top of that tuning of the model is the best way to ensure that we have the latest and greatest of this app and what it could possibly be. And that's pretty much it. Thank you everyone for your time. Any questions, please feel free to ask them. And yeah, thanks again.
Awesome. Let's give it up for Gina, y'all. Be sure to show her some love in the chat and start thinking of those questions. I think one of my favorite parts about watching these presentations as a non-technical person, right, is, you know, I go through my day-to-day thinking of what data science is in this very like narrow term, and it's a little scary to me, it's intimidating. But then, you know, Andrei and Gina, you two come in and you present what data science can look like anywhere, which I think is just so cool. And I think for some of the folks who are watching this who are kind of maybe considering a career in data science, it must just be so much fun for them as someone who's like curious about dabbling into tech and just seeing like what fun things you can do with it. So I just wanted to say that and share that. But we do have some questions coming up. Eleanor, one of our software engineering instructors, wants to know, do you have plans to add the ability to suggest dupes based on the shade in the future?
That was actually my original capstone idea, was creating an app that was more focused on dupes itself. But I'm a data scientist, not a software engineer. So I had to do something that consisted of data science. But that was originally the main goal, was being able to find dupes, the inexpensive to the expensive. And so this was kind of just one way that I was going to feed into that, which would be, yeah, it could be an extension of ShadeSense itself.
Very cool. Martin has an interesting question. So he says, I assume the lighting of the user was something that you had to adjust for. If so, could you go into that a little bit?
Yeah, absolutely. So obviously with the limitations for creating your own data, excuse me, you could only really do so much. So yeah, lighting was definitely something to consider, because obviously it changes skin tone, the color of the lipstick itself changes. So kind of just setting those guidelines. I feel like most apps that are kind of focused on, like, you know, like when you're getting your glasses on and they kind of give you those, you know, look here, make sure your lighting is clear, make sure of all of those things. Obviously that's something to take into account for, but yeah, definitely something that it's definitely a hurdle that needed to be addressed.
Yeah. Yes, I mean, hey, the lights always change it. So
Yeah.
how do you kind of get teach a computer to acknowledge that? That's super cool. Jess wants to know what inspired you to get into data science.
Oh, honestly, the thing that kind of really got the ball rolling is, let's go all the way back to the MySpace days, when everybody was a coder essentially. So I think that was kind of, I feel like that's honestly where it all kind of started, is being able to see what you could really create and make. Like if I could make a cool profile and get a bigger friend list, then what else could that lead into as far as the tech world goes, you know? So definitely started there, but more in the adult world. I was in the service industry for a long time. I got into management, and it was kind of cool to be able to track like sales and like what things were actually like selling the most, what weren't, seasonal things like that. So being able to pull from that and then getting into data science was actually the biggest impact, was being able to wrangle data and understand data and what does it mean and make predictions and, you know, those kinds of things.
It always starts with MySpace. That's what I'm learning. That's what I've learned in the last
Right?
couple of years working with here. No matter what people are studying, no matter what students I talk to, 50-50 chance one of them says, well, it all started
It all started with MySpace.
and my top 5.
Yeah, top.
Amazing. Couple more questions. What piece of advice would you give yourself pre-boot camp?
Be comfortable with being uncomfortable, for sure. I feel like it's such, like, going from a world that was not as intense and in this aspect, you know, service industry was intense in a different world, where there's a lot more pressure on yourself singularly to really push and just keep going, and nothing makes sense in the beginning, and you're wondering, imposter syndrome is something that Flatiron gets into a lot in the beginning, and it's definitely real. It's definitely there. So best advice would be to just be comfortable with being uncomfortable, like I said, because it's not fun all the time. It's definitely hard, and it's definitely something new, and tech is always evolving and changing. So trying to really stay on top of that, that's something that Miss Jelly was very keen on is there is always something happening. There is always something going down. I mean, just within the 4 months that we were in our cohort, there was new things all the time that were happening and trending. Like the Google Gemini happened during all of that, like the lawsuits that were going on in tech. And so definitely that part of the things as well.
Yeah, I'm glad you touched upon that, Gene. I think for a lot of people who are kind of just starting out in a career change, or they're joining a boot camp, particularly maybe people who come from a traditional like academic background, this is like a new way of being in a classroom and a new way of learning. And you are learning something brand new every day. And like basically the definition of that is you wake up and you start the day and you know nothing. And you do it for like months straight.
Absolutely. And you don't think you're like, I am the only one struggling this hard. And then you talk to everybody else in your cohort and everybody's like, I don't know, man, I'm just here. Like, we're just here. And I feel like it's kind of nice because I think it's just real. And I feel like that's what everybody in the real world is doing. It's just every day we're trying to figure out what we're doing. Yeah, we're family, Miss Jelly. For sure. But yeah, you're not alone.
Absolutely, absolutely. All right, I'm gonna open up the floor for questions one more time, and I'm actually gonna ask Cooper and Andrei if you want to jump back in here. Any questions for any of these folks or all of them? I know we have a lot of incoming students, which is super awesome to see. And we'll, hey, who knows? Maybe you'll be presenting at our next Final Project Showcase in a couple of months. But yeah, if anyone wants to drop any last questions in the chat, I'm going to go ahead and drop a couple of links in the chat, so keep an eye out for that. Ooh, Connor has an interesting question, and maybe someone here could speak to it, but Connor wants to know how do like data scientists and software engineers work together, if anyone can speak to kind of that intersection or collaboration.
Well, I would just like to say while I was creating Shade Sense and doing that app demo, it would have been super cool if I could have had Cooper make the the things on back end for me. So a lot of software engineering went on to that because oh my God, Streamlit is what I use and it's like one of the simplest things. So yeah, a lot of props for you. But I think honestly it was me speaking to it and me thinking of my project and doing kind of a little bit of the software engineering part. I think it would mostly be something of my idea, my data collection and my resources, and then kind of handing over the baby and saying, hey, this is what we're looking for. Make her cute, make her pretty, make her usable, and handing that over to, the software engineer part.
That's as someone who has not worked in any of that on any of that side of things, I made a funny little social media page. Yeah, I would happily take, as long as they have the data, I would just say, yes, here, hand me, I'll take the baby, I'll make it pretty, I'll find which shade of lipstick would work best, and then make sure that it meows the correct way, and we'll be good to go.
Yeah.
You can put lipstick on a
question.
baby. What?
Oh yeah.
Still a baby. Let's see. We got a couple of questions popping up. Jess wants to know, do you anticipate using these projects as talking points in future job interviews? I sure hope so.
Andrei, do you have any points on that question?
I guess we all have to talk about our project, so because it shows our potential, and that's what we are and what we achieved. So absolutely, that's the Capstone project. It's for you and for your future job. Absolutely.
Yeah, and definitely being able to like explain your project in both a technical way and maybe even a non-technical way, and being able to show that communication skill, I think is super important.
Exactly.
I'd also add in there, not even just for interviews. I'd say they might even be good ways to try and get around interviews. They might be even great for networking. You know, if you're talking to other software engineer, data science, people that are nerdy about the same things you're nerdy about, and you say, "Oh my gosh, I love software engineering, or I love data science. I love it so much. This is what I did for my final project." And you can just nerd out with them. If I get the sense that someone I'm networking with is a big fan of The Office, I'm 100% going to bring that up, because you never know where a conversation will take you. One of the big things that I've done through my job search post graduation has been talking to folks who have gone through the non-traditional background of boot camps, a lot of Flatiron grads, and found out, how did they get their first job, or how did they get their job after that? And so many people will say, "Oh, well, it's because of the networks I make. It's, I meet with recruiters, I get to know people in the industry." And you'd be amazed at how many people know someone that knows someone that is just dying to get someone with your skill set or similar to your skill set and is willing to talk to you. All you have to do is have that icebreaker. And I think these projects, especially if you do something that you're passionate about, or you just had fun doing and you're willing to talk ad nauseum and go on random presentations for a bunch of people you don't see on Zoom to talk about, it's a great way to build those relationships and get to know people.
I do want to say that with these projects and like getting into the real world and the interview process, we don't have, being a beginner and saying my experience, this is your experience working on these projects and using these as focal points for saying, yes, I helped develop this, yes, or collaborated on prior projects with other people. So teamwork, working solo, creating how me and Andrei both had to create our own data sets, being able to do all of those things. So that is really kind of being able to play on that whole, I have experience. So not just diminishing yourself and saying, oh, I just made this project. No, you made a project, you worked on it, you collaborated, and that's your experience.
Awesome. I think we got time for one more question. Before I ask, I do want to just remind folks, I dropped a couple of links into the chat. If you are considering Flatiron School and you're maybe shopping around for a boot camp, or just a new way to learn a new skill, I have linked a form to chat with someone from our admissions team. You can book a 10-minute call. I also put our events page on there. Would love to see folks at another upcoming event. We have Start Smart, Finish Strong, the Flex Guide to Get Ahead happening next week, hosted by one of our student advisors. So if you're an incoming student for our Flex, our part-time self-paced program, this is a great way to kind of meet some people and help get some of those strategies to make sure that you have a really solid foundation going into the boot camp. And then on January 30th, our Director of Career Coaching, Scott Bowman, will be giving a talk about overcoming common barriers in a career transition. So I think that's going to be super fun, super interesting. So go ahead and RSVP to those. All right, last question that I saw come up from Bernadette, who wanted to know if y'all have considered any of like the ethical questions that might come up when it comes to building things in tech. Any of that come up?
Yeah, I love this question. So that was a huge part, especially considering my app was number one, taking photos, so storing photos, things like that. So privacy And then things that I discussed as far as like diversity, making sure inclusion is super important no matter what. So definitely ethical considerations have to be put into those things. I mean, you can't, I think there's a certain responsibility that you have to uphold, and not to, keep on talking about it, but, I think Miss Jelly did a really good job of instilling that in us during our boot camp, is making sure that there are people behind these creations and that you can't just willy-nilly be throwing things out there. You have an ethical responsibility when you're creating things. There's a lot of responsibility that is held on that. So Miss Jelly, you're a real one. But yeah, definitely ethical considerations always have to be involved when you're a creator. Essentially we're all artists in this platform, we're creating, and you have to make sure that there's no exclusions, there's always inclusions. And that's why making sure that if you can collab with other people who have different mindsets, it's never a negative thing. So don't always try and do things solo and do solo projects. Having, a female perspective, a woman of color perspective, a male perspective, not a non-native perspective is very important.
I can't answer this question. I just made a social media app for the office. I don't think there's any ethical concerns there besides copyright infringement. In which case, if anyone here works for MGM or whoever owns that, please don't sue me.
We'll put a disclaimer at the beginning of the video, and when we share it on YouTube, hopefully it's all good. All right, y'all, we're at time. This was so much fun. I can't believe the hour is already up. Let's give one more round of applause in the chat for Cooper, for Andrei, for Gina. Congrats on everything that y'all have achieved so far. No small feat, but the fun also continues as you keep growing in your new careers. So again, make sure you connect with these folks on LinkedIn, check out their work on GitHub, and I hope I see everyone at another event sometime soon. Take it easy, everyone. Have a great night.
Thanks so much, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
See y'all.